Rising and Beyond, being text of the World Press Conference of the New Nigeria Network and the Ex-South United on Monday, 6 December 2021 at the Swiss sensation Isaac John Street, Ikeja Government Reserve Area, GRA. We welcome you, gentlemen, to this all-important press conference to review the white paper issued by the governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, on the 9th of 30th November 2021. Ladies and gentlemen of the press and fellow comrades, you will recall that we stated at our last held press conference held on the 22nd of November 2021, it is very on the trail of the release of the report of the Lagos State Judicial Panel of Inquiry on the Lagos State Judicial Panel of Inquiry on Restitution for victims of SARS-related abuses and other matters, that, and we quote, where the white paper departs from the clear and express positions of the panel report, will be left with no choice than to reject it in its entirety. For the purpose of emphasis, in their first press conference text under the column white paper, we say that white paper that excludes panel's recommendations stand rejected. Therein we stated as follows: the Lagos State government today, 22nd November, gentlemen, they are gouging from the vituperations of the apologists and paid analysts of the Lagos State government. The white paper of the Lagos State government will more or less be the rewriting of the panel report. Seriously debunks the narrative of cover-up as stated by the JPI at pages 14, 295 and 296 of the report. The white paper claims that the Lagos State government appointed independent members, including 3 human rights activists, one of whom was also a known government critic. They allow youths to nominate 2 representatives to the JPI, provided funding, logistics, independent forensic report, live transmission facilities, among other things, for the panel in asserting its fairness and transparency. Our questions are numerous on this issue, but we shall focus on the following. 1. Why did the Lekki Concession Company, the managers of the Lekki toll gate, failed, refused, and neglected to release exclusive footage of the CCTV cameras of the events of 28th October 2020 as claimed by the panel? You know, gentlemen, what we are saying is that you see, Lagos State government in its own white paper was praising itself. We did this, we provided funding, we provided logistics, we allowed live transmission, which we paid for, and all that. But the questions, we start asking the questions from this same government. So why did your company, the Lekki Concession Company, why did it fail to release the footage of the CCTV camera? And this was complained by the forensic expert, the independent forensic expert, that's the Sentinel. 2, why did the Lagos State Management Authority, an agency of the Lagos State government, embark on massive cleanup of the Lekki toll gate in the wee hours of 21st October 2020, as evidenced by their tweets to that effect on Twitter? I mean, this thing happened and it got immediately controversial. The next thing that Loma suddenly became over efficient, rushed to the site and clean it up to the best of their ability at night. That was clandestine, you know, wee hours of 21st October 2020. Then 3, why was the panel's independent forensic expert denied access to the bench server of the Lekki Concession Company, fully owned by the Lagos State government? The answers to all these were missing in the white paper and blowing in the wind. The white paper did more of covering for the Lagos State government through its chest thumping. You know, these are people that were praising themselves, congratulating themselves, awarding marks to themselves, but it was based on what we now call all on lies. Whitening the bloodstained hands of the Nigerian police force in the Lekki massacre. Why the white paper accepted panel's recommendation number 1 on police reforms, Panel's recommendation number 2 on prosecution of military officers found culpable in the Lekki massacre. Panel's recommendation number 3 on dismissal of all military officers involved in the shooting at the Lekki massacre. Panel's recommendation number 4, bail and release of all arrested on-site protesters. Number 5, on restriction of military from intervention in internal disturbances. Number 6, restrict on use of social media, and even commended hospitals that treated citizens during the EndSARS protest under panel recommendation number 7. The Lagos State in the white paper claimed, despite all this, claimed that it disagrees that hospitals treated victims of gunshot wounds from Lekki Toll Gate from Lekki Toll Gate at 7.3 on 21st October 2020. See autopsy summary of body labeled 063 at page 99 of the JPI report. The question that comes to mind, I would like to briefly expound on this for you, for your clearer understanding and clarification. You know, it's so disingenuous and actually unbelievable that the state government could begin to say that it cannot accept the finding of the panel that doctors treated. The forensic expert which they brought from England, his own report said the medical records that he studied actually suffered injuries from military grade ammunition. And you now find Lagos State government saying that it's only Professor Obafunwa, the pathologist, evidence that out of the 3 people said to be brought from Lekki, that is only one of them that suffered perforation by projectile. That is gunshot. That's pathological language for being shot by bullets. So now, these doctors who came, were they ghosts? See, even doctors who came, medical doctors who came before a panel, before the whole world, who testified, who gave evidence and were cross-examined. The panel said this magic, this Alausa magic white paper is saying that it's not true. Who are they? A deep perusal of the white paper will reveal more of such contradictions. To panel recommendations number 8, that Lagos State government fulfill the commitment made to the hospitals by the Lagos State government through the governor and the Commissioner for Health. Whatever claim the Lagos State government has paid all the hospitals. So ask yourself, paid all the hospitals for what? The doctor said we came and we treated people with gunshot wounds, and we are not talking about even Lekki or even the last of them. Gunshot wounds, non-gunshot wounds. So who did you pay? So, gentlemen, the white paper claims the Lagos State government has paid all the hospitals. For panel's recommendation number 9, that the DP of Maroko Police Station, along with policemen deployed from Maroko Police Station on the 20th and 21st of October 2020, should be prosecuted for arbitrary and indiscriminate shooting and killing of protesters. The white paper now claims that even though the evidence before the JPI does not establish arbitrary and indiscriminate killing of protesters at LTG, that is Lekki Toll Gate, the Lagos State government will request the same police to further investigate the matter and punish the in fact, this is stupid. I'm sorry to use parliamentary language. This insulting the sensibilities of Nigeria. They will require the police to further investigate the matter. I will tell you why it is actually even stupid. You see, Pagbatala and Foju, Punapuna and Dete, Oju Akofotan, Danindale. Is either you are completely blind, poor blind completely, or you are not blind. And to be half blind, full blind, partially blind will cause confusion. Look at what this state government is doing. Actually insulting itself, not ourselves. You say that there is no evidence. According to you, there has been no evidence. Yet you are requiring further investigation. What are you saying? That does not make sense, gentlemen, and it's actually an affront. I mean, to the intelligence and assault to the intelligence of people listening to that kind of a garbage coming from a white paper committee headed by a so learned a fellow like the Attorney General of Lagos State. I almost say Attorney General of the Federation. That's another learned fellow, gentlemen. And all this, he was now asking members of the public who also have credible evidence of the allegations against the DP of Maroko Police Station and policemen from Maroko are welcome to submit evidence to the office of DDP within the same time frame. Can you imagine this kind of duplicity? The arising questions are, upon what gravitas, upon what basis did the white paper arrive at the conclusion that the evidence before the JPI does not establish arbitrary and discriminatory killings at the LTG? Upon what? Upon what? I think these people are just taking Nigerians for granted because you are government today, and this government we are talking, you are not even there fiat of gunpowder. You are there supposedly by fiat of votes, and you are treating people like this. You set up a panel yourself. You set a panel yourself. And all members of the panel, all, even people working under you, all of them, they returned a unanimous decision. You are not saying all this. I mean, insulting not only Nigerians, the international community, even insulting the African race. As if we are fools. We are not fools. It is when people lack integrity, they lack the political will, they lack the courage, they lack the nobility of mind to accept the errancy of their ways that they misbehave like this. Two, why did the white paper at the same time call for credible evidence, against DP Maroko and policemen within 90 days? And at the same time, you have been so assertive to dismiss it with a high level of certitude. Police officers indicted in panel report to this, and we restate our call. Indicted police officers afraid of the haunting ghost of the Lekki Toll Gate massacre. It's a massacre. In another breath, the white paper, I think we should call it the stained white paper. White paper. Is this a stained white paper? The stained, very dirty white paper accepted panel recommendation number 10, that is improvement of grievance address mechanism. Number 11, regular dialogue with youth. Number 12, wide publicity of curfew regulations. Number 13, reorientation and training of police and security personnel. Number 14, 1 month period for coroner's inquest. Number 15, guidelines and procedures for documentation for mortuaries. Number 16, training of Lagos State Environmental Health Monitoring Unit. Number 17, training of Lagos State Law Enforcement Agencies. Number 18, preservation of crime scene. Number 19, proposed destination of Peace Park. Number 20, declaration of 20 October 2020 as a toll-free day. 23, bridging the gap of distrust of youth with government. The recommendation number 21 for declaration of 28 October 2021 as NSAS public holiday for remembrance of fallen youth was stated by the white paper to be forwarded to the federal government as recommendation number 22, which requires the federal government to publicly apologize to the youth. Well, let me quickly say here that you could see, look at all these things that you have accepted. That, in fact, all these recommendations shows that Lagos is badly wrong. If ordinary curfew regulation was mismanaged, you remember that curfew suddenly was declared around 12 o'clock to take its effect by 4. Then, after some time, announcement came again that now to start by 9. And by 6:45, the military were already there enforcing the so-called curfew by attacking innocent Nigerian youths and killing many, hence the massacre. See, guidelines of documentation of mortuary. So Lagos supposedly to be the center of excellence. They don't know how to run mortuaries. Unless I forget, because I could forget, They are talking about where are the members, where are the family of these 99 bodies. Who are they? Do you know them? Where are the ones that in your custody? The dead people that are in your custody. Where are the members of the public who came out to collect? That would debunk that asinine accusation that if indeed it is true that people really died. Where have been their family? Okay, this one that have been your deposit now since 1 year. What happened to them? You are accepting that a public holiday for fallen youth, and you are now saying that you are requiring the federal government to public apologize to the. At any rate, a public holidays is also a state affair. It's really the powers of states of the federation to declare public holiday. What happened in Lagos did not happen elsewhere. The infamy of the military against Nigerian youth happened only in Nigeria during this period of the protest. We are much concerned with the panel recommendation number 24, which recommended that the Lagos state government builds a monument for lost lives and the injured at the Lekki toll gate, to which the white paper disagrees vehemently. The white paper bases its reasons for disagreement on the fact that the finding of the judicial panel of inquiry that 9 people died is irreconcilable with the fact that only 1 person died of gunshot wounds at 7:43 p.m. The white paper went further to claim that the list of the deceased persons produced by the panel included repetitions and included the names of the living, such as Nathaniel Solomon, who testified for the deceased brother, Peter Solomon, and Sarah Ibrahim, and hence as eyewitness. The questions are numerous for us, but some are as follows. 1. Why did white paper isolate an aspect of Professor Obafunwa's testimony and leave the others? I mean, Obafunwa's testimony was taken completely out of context, and they are now casting it as the holy writ or the holy grail, as if it was only Obafunwa who came, and that's why we said they are only rehashing the position of the apologists before. You know, the apologist, that is Mr. What's his name now? The money man, Mr. Oligoko SAN. Yes, was emphasizing on the issue of death certificate, as if death certificate is the only, or pathological report, autopsy report is the only way that somebody's death could be proved or could be established judicially. 2. Why is the white paper actually ignoring testimonies of eyewitnesses such as Sarah Ibrahim, who led the contingent of victims of Lekki massacre before the panel as represented by Adeyinka Olumide Fusika SAN and his team? What of Dabira Ayuku, who led the contingent of experts protesters before the panel and represented by Adishin Ogunlano, and Ayode Miliyu, their team, and Kamsi Ibe, who was recently attacked, who testified copiously before the panel to the fact that they saw dead bodies? Why is the white paper silent on the testimony of both the independent forensic expert of the panel and the forensic expert engaged by the Lagos state government, who admitted under cross-examination by Adishin Ogunlano that 85 bodies from Lekki toll gate were treated by the hospitals? In lieu of answers, Professor Obafunwa testified about deaths at Lekki toll gate under cross-examination by Adeyinka Olumide Fusika, and he gave evidence about how he worked on 99 dead bodies brought to him, and how 3 of them were from Lekki toll gate, and 1 out of the 3 had a projectile that penetrated his heart. The white paper deliberately ignored the question of projectile and the testimony of forensic experts before the panel about live and black ammunition the military admitted was used against the unarmed protesters. We reject this attempt by the Lagos state government to rewrite history through the dirty, stained, dishonorable, ignoble white paper. He puts a lie to all the promise of the governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, for peace in quotes, as this is more or less worse than a piece of the graveyard. This is a piece of imposition. This is a piece of deceit, self-delusion, which will not work with the truth buried underneath. And the truth cannot be buried. We call for justice for the dead and injured at the Lekki toll gate. Professor Obafunwa's testimony on 96 dead bodies from the mainland and the tip of the iceberg of the underreported NSAS mainland multiple massacres. In actual fact, Professor Bafwa testimony about 96 dead bodies recovered from the mainland areas of Lagos State is a confirmation of the chief of the event of the order reported multiple mainland massacres. You know, people are focused on the NSAS massacre only. While the men of the Nigerian who are attacking Lekki Toll Gate, a similar attack was being carried out on NSAS protesters at the Lagos State Office Assembly gate alongside Lagos State. Some of the people who witnessed this attack are here in this hall. The bloody military operation of the night of 20th October 2020 at Lekki Toll Gate continued with more brutal carnage from the morning of 21st October 2020, during which unarmed protesters and other citizens going about their lawful businesses were shot indiscriminately at all over the Lagos mainland in areas ranging from Mushin, Agege, Ojodu, Bega, among others, with thousands losing their lives. This is the truth. At least the case of one of them called Ono Michael, that is Grave Ayedungbe, was actually presented before the panel, and the panel actually awarded the family 10 million naira. And that particular person was shot on the 21st of October at Ojodu by the police on the morning of 21st. And so many other people were arrested and detained. One of them is what's his name now? Bola, who we have been battling for his release, and most likely even his bail has been perfected. It's not been allowed to come out by the prisons because they say it's still have a case at the High Court, and so only this week the High Court is going to, the matter is going to be discontinued so it can regain its freedom. The white paper in a show of over desperation, disdain, dishonorable, ignoble, white paper in a show of over desperation dwelt majorly on the report and recommendation of the panel on the investigation of the Lekki massacre, where there is no white paper to date from Lagos State government on the investigation to SARS-related abuses, which is the primary assignment of the panel. It is also important, talking about this, let me just briefly say, so you can see how dubious and duplicitous the clever by half, smart aleck position of the state government. You remember, for those journalists who cover the panel, it was pay as you go. When it comes to abuses by police, once you are found guilty, when they find the applications meritorious, the panel was empowered to be paying compensation. So it was a special panel for the purposes of abuses related to the police. At the end of the day, before they closed, they expended 420 million naira on victims and survivors or relatives or beneficiaries of people who were attacked by the police in several places. But when it now comes to the one of Lekki Toll Gate, go to the white paper, they are now saying the 237 million, they say they earmark, they said it's federal government who will pay it. Can you imagine that duplicity? You pay 420 million. You pay 420 million for victims of brutality of the police on or before the NSAS protest. You remember that many of you that came, they have been attacked, abused by the police before, some 7 years ago, some people 6 years ago, some people 10 years ago, and all that. Where they are found meritorious, the panel, they did not write any recommendation to the state government at that time. They did not say, oh, they will issue a white paper and we'll pay. They were paying, they were empowered by the government to pay. But when it comes to the one of the Lekki Toll Gate, is that not abuse? Or is that a superior abuse than another abuse? Abuse is abuse. Whether it is done by the police, or done by the military, or done by Boy Scouts, abuse is abuse. And now Lagos State government find it convenient now to say we are referring the issue of compensation to the National Economic Council. So the white paper is also important to draw the attention of members of the public to the fact that 1 year after the October 2020 SARS protest was drowned in the blood of young Nigerians, starting with Lekki massacre, hundreds of negotiations arrested in the name of the protest are still languishing in jail. We must also stress that usually police don't arrest people during protests, but would rather run for their lives while coming back to the fight affect arrest of mostly innocent passers-by after the protests had died down. The experience of a few persons who suffered the kind of whimsical arrest whose release were able to effect validates this fact. For instance, Nicholas Mba, an innocent young Nigerian who got released from prison some months ago after spending close to a year, was arrested in the early hours of 21st October 2020 on his way to withdraw from ATM machine. We are convinced that this was the fate of the overwhelming majority of those presently in detention in the name of the NSAS protest, not only in Lagos but all over Nigeria, including 11 people randomly arrested in Ibadan in the name of this same NSAS protest. We therefore demand their immediate release from prison, or at worst, as the NSAS panel recommended, they should be charged to fall without further delay. Can you by more than a year after, who are still languishing in prison? While the acceptance of the panel recommendation for the standing human rights tribunal is a welcome among others, there's a big veil on the multiple mainland massacres that was carried out. Remember that on the 20th of October of 2020, there were shootings of civilians in places like Agege, places like Mushin in the afternoon. And the Okokomaiko side, Agbara, Ojoju. So that same day, and it is lucky that military came to. These massacres happened, so we call it the mainland massacre. So in fact, you are calling that actually, if this Lagos state government is genuine enough, at least in their duplicity, they should set up another panel. Yes, to investigate what we call the mainland massacres. And they will be surprised that people will come out. This time it's not the soldiers, it's the police. That the military came before the panel to say the military and the police were overwhelmed. They were overwhelmed. That's why they were called out. We are talking of the 28th in the morning, of 28th in the afternoon. So, I want to repeat this with your kind permission. While the acceptance of the panel's recommendation for a standing human rights tribunal is welcome among others, there's a big veil still on the multiple mainland Lagos massacres that was carried out by the men of the Nigerian police force. And the Nigerian Army, as well as their security agencies, is forcefully putting down the NSAS mass movement. We call for justice for all the deceased and injured during the NSAS protest. We will continue to agitate for this until justice is done. The insincerity of the white paper ridicules the work for peace declared by Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, as this is not how to work for peace. In fact, you can't work for peace without first working for peace. I repeat, you can't work for peace without first working for peace. And the way you work for peace is to be sincere and genuinely address the injustices that your government has perpetrated against Nigerians. You understand? But from what you could see, from what you have said, they will accept the premises, they will get the conclusion. I mean, you'll be surprised. How can a government how can they come and say that it reject the evidence of doctors that they treated people for gunshot wounds? And then on what basis? In fact, on what basis now are you even saying compensation? Because they did not reject the compensation, they are only transferring the responsibility to the federal government. See another contradiction. Because if you say you reject the evidence of doctors and only one person died, then why are you accepting recommendation that federal government should pay it? What kind of boju is this? Is this center for, and they'll say, Ego bodo baje, o baje ti, ele ti baje pauton. This one has been spoiled finish because of this sincerity. This sincerity, how can this be center of excellence? So why ask the federal government to take up the issue of compensation if you have rejected the position of the panel that doctors actually treated many people for gunshot wounds? Then we said only one person died, and that person said, you said you didn't know his family, so don't pay anything to anybody now. Why didn't they have the confidence, the audacity to lie to the very end to lie to the very end. All this, I'm sorry I'm lapsing to Yoruba, but that's my mother tongue. All this shekusheye, you know. You have bat, you have bed. Lagos State government, the Attorney General, the governor, everybody that is in ever of affairs of Lagos State government, learn to move away from shekusheyeism. Move away from it. Move away from it. Move away. This is the charge of the Nigerian Network Coalition. You should move away if you want to be bad. We know that, yes, typically Nigerian politicians are oppressive. All this window dressing, all this veneer of concern, of welfareism, of tokenism, we reject it in its entirety for being duplicitous. We will keep, as for the people who wants to work with the governor, we wish you the best of luck. We wish you the very best of luck. Go and do your work with the governor who could not accept responsibility. Go and take a walk for a government who set up an independent panel and reject the central thing that independent panel said, that there was a massacre. Go and do the work. You know, go and do the work will not stop you. But when we want to do our own work, don't remember that time that good luck will hijack it. Thugs will hijack it. Why is thugs not hijacking your own? Is it because you are the thugs? Or the sponsors of thugs? This is the implication. And this message is also going to the Commissioner of Police. Akim Odumosu, you will not be Commissioner of Police forever. And there will be days of accountability. This is the truth. How can we be practicing democracy for 20 years, the Fourth Republic, and we have a kind of disguised military dictatorship, jagutism? That's wrong. It's unacceptable. And we'll continue to Sorosoke, to speak out against injustice. It's our country. It belongs to all of us. I will not be intimidated from any space of this country. We will keep our friends in the media aware of our next steps. We also call on all the forces of the Ensemble movement to be on their alert. Internal vigilance is the price of liberty. And Luther continues. Victoria Asada.
Anyway, so we take questions now from the members of the press. Or we take
please let me seize this moment to, in the first instance, appreciate our friends and colleagues as experience. That is the experience that happened very recently, who protested attempts by the Lagos State government to spit on the dead under the guise that they intend to do a work for peace. And that singular protest act from our colleagues at Experience is a very clear statement that the Nigerian people, young and old, would not be hoodwinked into an attempt to cover up an egregious crime against not just international law, but humanity at large. And in addition to countering with a work for justice, as had been earlier read out by the press statement, we also seize this moment to inform that the trend that we've seen over the past 1 year had confirmed that we deal with not just a fraudulent system and government, but also a system that is completely murderous, guided by leaders who are nothing more than pioneers of death. And this calls to a reason why, as young people, as old people, as working people, as oppressed people, we are prepared to ensure that never again would we have this kind of individuals, charlatans, whether federally or at the level of the state or at any level of government. Never again will we allow them insult Nigerians this much. And this is why some of us will be calling on our colleagues. Generally speaking, it is known that young people, we have about 70% of the population of the country. We will generally rely on the experience of the whole people and the working people in general to ensure that the Nigerians will no longer have to choose between the devil and the deep blue sea. And this is the reason I will be calling on all of our colleagues to begin to organize massively to ensure we have a system that will not describe the death of 3 persons as only 3. And what does the government mean by only 3 people? What do they mean by only 1 person died? 1 person dying is a death too much in the first instance. Let alone if you have a situation where you have 99 bodies deposited at a morgue. 99 bodies. This is minus every other body that has been scattered everywhere. This is not only insensitive but criminal, and we use this medium to assert that whether justice will catch up with them, whether now or when they are out of office. And they should remember what happened in Burkina Faso. Thomas Sankara, who was murdered and by criminal elements in Burkina Faso. Now they are here now today, 38 years after, they are facing the crimes that they've committed long ago. So which means that at whatsoever time, whether today, whether tomorrow, Muhammadu Buhari, Governor Sanwo-Olu, the Akim Odumosu, and every individual who contributed to the egregious crime that took place on the 20th and beyond, justice will definitely catch up with them. Thank you.